Welcome to the MMA Junkie Rankings Report for December 18th, 2019. And UFC 245 was the big card last week. Gorgeous George Garcia, our rankings chair, is with me to talk about all the changes that included. Let's start with 245. Kamaru Usman defeated Colby Covington in the main event. Of course, Usman came in at welterweight at number 1. There's nowhere for him to go. Covington came in at number 3, had a great performance, came up short, but I thought fought well. You actually considered moving Colby Covington up a slot despite the loss.
Right, and so what happened was I had given him the first 2 rounds, and I thought, wow, this guy's looking good. He could possibly be a world champion. And let's not forget, you got to give respect that he was an interim world champion at one time as well. And then, the tide changed a little bit, and whether you had it 3-1, 1-3, 2-2, regardless, we all knew that round 5 was going to come into play. And I heard Joe Rogan say something. He goes, What we can't deny is that we're not watching the best 2 welterweights in the world, So maybe that came into play, and that's why I was like, well, man, Covington's had such a nice run. He only lost to Usman, who he had down at one point. But then I had to just put my blinders on. I have to keep it real, and that's why we discuss it. These are ideas that I throw up, and I let the editors, fire back and give their opinions. But Tyron Woodley, man, he's also had a great run, only losing to Usman. And this is a guy that was at the top of the heap. Everyone's trying to clip at him, and he had 4 title defenses. So even though he hasn't fought since that loss, I'd like him to fight again. I had to keep Woodley at 2 and Covington at 3.
Yeah, it makes sense. There was some move to happen at welterweight, though. Jeff Neal, guy looked absolutely incredible in a win over Mike Perry. I mean, the guy just seems to get better and better every time out there. He started the week as an honorable mention. Where does he go now with that win over Platinum?
We're going to make him jump about 5 spots here. I think right behind Damian Maia, who, aside from losing to number 1, number 2, and number 3, Usman, Woodley, and Covington, he's basically wiped out the rest of the division. He's been doing that for years, too. So banging against the best, the Masvidal win. And Neal is progressing. He's 13-2 overall, like 5-1 now in the UFC. So you got to give respect to that. But hey, it's a jump from honorable mention to right behind Maia. No shame in that.
No, not at all. All right, the co-main event, featherweight title was on the line. No mystery here. Alexander Volkanovski, your new UFC champion. Of course, he jumps up to number 1. Max Holloway, of course, came in as number 1. Good performance. It's not like he was absolutely dominated out there by any stretch of the imagination. It seems like a rematch is probably going to happen next. But how far down does Max Holloway slide?
He'll go down 1 spot because he owns the win over the current number 2, Brian Ortega. He pretty much handily beat him, and Holloway's been at the top for a while. So, hey, shout out to Volkanovski, tip of the hat. We move him to the top, and Holloway slides down, and so does Ortega. And then from then on, everything else pretty much stays the same.
Yeah, pretty simple there.
Including keeping Aldo there, because even though Aldo dropped, the landscape of 45 just changed. And I believe part of Aldo's move was because he had the 2 losses to Holloway. So for now, we'll keep him there. Looked like Holloway made 35 with no problems, but we'll see where the next fight booking takes him.
Yeah, good point there. We'll talk about that in a minute when we get to bantamweight results. But Jose Aldo does stay at 145 pounds. We want to see what happens next. All right, women's bantamweight. Amanda Nunes, she retained her bantamweight belt with a win over Jermaine Durandamy. She's number 1 at 135, 145 pound for pound, so she's staying tight at number 1. Now, meanwhile, Durandamy loses, but actually slides up a spot to number 2. And that may sound a little weird, but you have to remember we had Ketlin Vieira at number 2 who got knocked out by Irene Aldana, so she slides down. So no real movement up top, but the big movement kind of in the middle of the pack. Ketlin Vieira, who we thought was going to be next, she takes a big slide, and Irene Aldana, who's been hanging around but seems to really be clicking right now with that big win, she takes a jump up.
Right, and normally when you have Aldana coming from nowhere land, which is, in the top 15 but towards the back, and you have Ketlin Vieira, who's been undefeated, even though I like to match the head-to-head and reflect that, sometimes you just drop somebody enough this way and someone this way, and then maybe the next matchup can, you can have that pairing, show the head-to-head result. But in this case, Ketlin had also not fought for like 20 months, and she also had wins over young ladies who just their stock has dropped a little bit, you know what I mean? So again, the landscape of 35 has just changed a little bit, and then she got viciously knocked out. You were kind. Yeah. She got knocked something out. And credit to Aldana. That was a beautiful punch and some follow-ups. So yeah, she's going to take a little bit of a hit, but again, when you have a good record like that, one more nice win in her next fight, and Vieira will be right back in the top 5.
Yeah, no question. Big drop for her, unfortunately. She was super emotional. Aldana looks like maybe she'll be a title contender sometime in the future, so
yeah,
changing up the top.
We got a killer there in Mexico.
All right, let's talk about men's bantamweight. Interesting because you had a couple big fights. Marlon Moraes beats Jose Aldo. Peter Yan beats Uriah Faber. But not a whole lot of room necessarily for them to move, unfortunately. That bantamweight title picture is intriguing right now, especially with Cejudo calling out Aldo despite taking a loss, saying it was a win. Again, we're going to leave Aldo at featherweight for now until we're sure that's where he's going to stay at 135 pounds. But I guess give me an idea with Moraes and Jan why there's really just nothing to do with him.
So Moraes is at number 2. He stays at number 2 because we're going to have the champ at number 1, Cejudo. He's got the clear win over Moraes earlier this year. Now, Sterling and Jan could be debated. In my opinion, Jan, not my opinion, but Jan does have the better record. He's got less wins, but 2 less losses than Sterling. He's fought a little bit more frequently within the last 18 months, but it's just that Sterling's been doing this for a while. So if you look at the names that he's had, I just feel like that's the tiebreaker on keeping him there. And he's also got himself a little win streak going since the Moraes loss. So the Moraes-Sterling head-to-head is reflected. But at the same time, like I say, he's just been in there against some killers while Jan is reaching the killer stage. Now look at Jan just beat a guy like Uriah Faber, and it was a great fight. But Uriah Faber was unranked pretty much, you know what I mean? So even though he iced him, it's just not what Sterling's been doing.
Yeah, no question. All right, last note I wanted to look at from UFC 245 flyweight division. How good did Brandon Moreno look? I mean, I thought this
Awesome.
was his best performance to date. Beat another guy that's highly respected in Kai Kara France. What do we do with Brandon Moreno?
Brandon Moreno's going to move up. John Moraga just has not been active. And in fact, the whole flyweight division, look, to be fair, is just been a little bit out of a standstill. Some guys moved up. Some guys moved on to other promotions. Some guys just haven't been fighting. But, yeah, Moreno, we're going to move him up. Let's not forget he's coming off a draw, previously a split draw. And then prior to that, he wasn't with the UFC. He was competing for LFA, which is a credible organization. He won a title there. But the reason he was there is because he was cut. So he's back. He's looking great. John, we didn't even get to see that awesome jiu-jitsu that he's got because him and Kai Kara France just had an excellent stand-up affair.
They look fantastic. Well, listen, a lot of changes. Sure, some you'll agree with, some you won't. Let us know. But weigh in the comments section. Hit us up on Twitter, MMA Junkie George, MMA Junkie John. Of course, we got more fights this weekend. Bellator has a couple of events out in Hawaii, and the UFC's in South Korea. We'll talk about how that impacts the rankings next week on the Rankings Report.